Today we are looking at 2022 NASCAR paint schemes. 2022 is upon us, finally, and we're going to talk about our first thing for 2022, I guess, in terms of the general NASCAR. We've talked about some individual stories, Jacques Villeneuve in the 500, Eric Almirola, this being his final season, but this is going to be kind of a fun video, I guess. You're going to get to see some paint schemes of your favorite drivers, and I'm going to rate them. There are some good ones, actually, and we're going to start off with a good one, in my opinion. Let's get right into it. Ross Chastain, his first year with Trackhouse Racing. He will be in the number 1, and this Advent Health car came out, and honestly, I kind of like it. So, looking at this thing here, we got obviously the number 1. It's not slid all the way up to the front of the door, which I like. The Advent Health logo takes up a good amount of space. They really use up that extra space for the logo. They kind of extend it in a sense. But also the color pattern. I like the light blue, a little shade of dark blue with that kind of light watermelonish green. And then they have a little watermelon there on the bottom of the left, near the left rear tire. Obviously, Ross Chastain, known for being the guy who smashes a watermelon every time he wins a race. He works or used to work on a watermelon farm his family owns. So, yeah, I think that's a really good touch, the watermelon part. And also, I just really like how the colors clash. The white on the middle of the car is fine, and on top of the car, I think this is a really good-looking car. I think it's unique. It's something we haven't seen before. The watermelon is an amazing touch. There's a bit of open space for sure, but they use that open space for the watermelon, which I thought was pretty clever, pretty unique, pretty fun. So overall, we're starting off with an 8.8 out of 10. Maybe, you know what? Actually, let's make it a straight up 9 out of 10. Right off the bat, we got a really good paint scheme here. Now we go to this one. Austin Cindric's Menards paint scheme. I wish they changed the base design for the Menards scheme, if we're being honest. Some of the paint schemes that have transitioned from the Gen 6 to the next gen, I wish they would have changed things up. Sometimes it just doesn't clash, and with the number moving, it almost feels lazy that they didn't change it. Yeah, they put a bunch of sponsors there, and they filled up the space for sure, and they made the Menards logo a little bit bigger, but I just wish they changed the base paint scheme, you know? But it's still a decent looking car. Not too bad. 6.5 out of 10. Then we go to the Austin Cindric discount tire car, and it's the same story. Same base paint scheme as last year for Keselowski. Same base paint scheme, discount tire scheme. They just moved up the discount tire logo, and honestly, it does look a little bit odd if we're being honest for some reason, just the way the discount tire is on there, the logo. I wish they changed the paint scheme up. 6 out of 10. Now we are getting to some really, really good paint schemes. SHR's designers, their paint scheme designers, they deserve a massive raise. All their paint schemes so far this year are amazing. Let's look at this first one. It was announced earlier this week or last week that Kevin Harvick would be having Rheem back on his car. He had it back when he was at Richard Childress Racing, but Rheem is back on the 4 car, and this car looks incredible. I love the black number 4 on top of the white and the red. You got kind of the red from the back of the car going into a narrower area up to the front. You got the Rheem logo right there, nice and big. You got Rheem.com on the side of the car. You got that Busch Light logo in that open space kind of area. They used up the extra space perfectly. The design of the car flows well. It looks great. This is a great paint scheme. This is a great looking car. The red and the black and the white all clash very well. Those colors usually clash really well together, but this is a wonderful paint scheme. 9.5 out of 10. I love it. Next, Kevin Harvick paint scheme. Another great paint scheme here. Gear Wrench, which has previously been at Chip Ganassi Racing, which is no longer a thing with Kurt Busch, is now with Kevin Harvick. They used up all that space for the word Gear Wrench on their logo, all the way back to the fuel cell, all the way up to the number. Very good use of the space. I like the gold color. I like the white. They don't use too much of it. They don't make it too flashy, but they use it to where you can see how they use it. The Busch Light logo kind of in the same area, that's all right. And I just really like the way the colors clash on this car. The outline of the number 4 being in that kind of gold looks really, really cool. I like this paint scheme a lot. It's a solid 9 out of 10. Really good car. I like the Rheem one better, but this one's a really good paint scheme. Now we have the Busch Light car. Busch has been with Harvick for a number of years, and they utilize the space really well. I will admit I don't like the gray where the Mobil 1 is. It looks kind of out of place, which that kind of could be a sponsor deal. They could have said, we don't want our Mobil 1 logo on just the blue Busch background. I don't know, but it does look kind of weird, just the dark gray in the middle of all of that kind of light blue. But they used up the space really well. They used the Busch Light can next to the number, and then instead of just the word Busch, they did the Busch like they do in their commercials. So I thought that was a really good use of space. The only complaint I have is the gray that is on the bottom of the car about halfway back all the way to the back of the car. It doesn't ruin the scheme, but it does take a couple points out of it, so I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. Still a very solid paint scheme. Then we go to the Kyle Larson Hendrick car, the defending champion, and just like the Cindric thing, it's a copy-paste of what they did last year, and I know this paint scheme has a lot of meaning to Hendrick Motorsports, Rick Hendrick, all that, because it was Ricky Hendrick's old paint scheme, and it looked great last year. It looked just like that paint scheme. It looked amazing. But with this car and the way the numbers are, it looks weird. I wish they had done something different with the HendrickCars.com. It almost looks like it's too long to go across because there's all that open space at the bottom. If I were to do it, this is just a guess, but make the H really big so that it takes up the rear quarter panel, and then have the Hendrick and Hendrick go across a little bit farther, and then lower the part of the Cars.com into that open space right there. And then move the 5 a slight bit back because I don't like how the 5 clashes with kind of the red and white, the way that it flows. And the 5 is just on top of that. So also I hate that on these Chevys, that at least the Hendrick Chevys, they put the Chevy logo on the hood. That just looks off. 2 Chevy logos right next to each other. With Ford, they have the Mustang logo on the grill, and then they have the Ford logo on top, so that makes sense. Those are 2 different logos, but the Chevy logo twice really close to each other. I hope they don't do that on the car because that just looks weird. I'm going to have that complaint for all Hendrick cars. But this one, last year would have been like an 8 out of 10. This year, just because it looks kind of out of place and it looks like they just slapped the old design on, 6 out of 10. Now we go to Brad Keselowski, his first paint scheme, I guess, with the Fastenal Ford. I got mixed feelings about this one. I really like the color flow. I like the black and the kind of dark blue and the pattern, the hexagon-looking pattern on the back of the car. But, so since we're going to talk about space and they moved the number for all that space, the rear quarter panel has nothing. Just blank space. So the number is what the car is. It's a 6 out of 10 from me. Now we go to Tyler Reddick, and this one is I like the colors. I like the way it flows. The only thing that bothers me, and this could be a weird thing, is the sponsor 3CHI, 3 I don't know how to say it, is that the 3 is so close to the 8, it kind of looks like it says 83 Chai or 83 Kai, whatever that's supposed to be. I like that they used the back of the car to put the logo again, to put the website. I like the colors. Once again, the only thing that really bothers me is the it looks like the 8 and the 3 go together for some reason to me, and it looks like he's number 83. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It's a decent looking car. It's got some good flowing colors. The colors all clash well together. It's just that one problem I have, and it's just so distracting. I got to take some points off. Next is the Chase Elliott Napa scheme, and I got mixed feelings about this one too. I think the Napa schemes have used too much white since Elliott changed the 9, so 2018. Elliott's best Napa scheme is definitely 2017. It was all blue with some yellow kind of stripes almost, and that was a really cool paint scheme, but I just don't like how much white there is in the Napa paint schemes. They added more blue and yellow this year, which I do like, but I will admit the way they used the yellow was kind of random, especially near the number and on the A-frame, A-post, whatever that thing is called. I do like how they used the Napa logo. They kind of moved it and put it on the door of the car, and then Auto Parts is on the back, so they used up the space well. But also, I don't like how the Napa logo isn't straight. That bothers me too, but it's definitely better than his old paint schemes, I would say, in terms of the number 9 Napa car. 8.2 out of 10. Yeah, I think that's good. Next, Eric Almirola, his final paint scheme of his career, I guess. For Smithfield, and honestly, once again, Stewart-Haas Racing designing team has nailed another one. Once again, the black and white base Smithfield logo with the kind of goldish looking tint. I don't know what color that is. But the black and the white, the way they flow, looks really good. The gold on the outside tip of the black kind of outline looks really good. They use up all that space on the side of the car for the Smithfield logo. They got the F going down just to the edge of the car, which looks really good. It's a solid 9 out of 10 car. It's a good looking car. I'm looking forward to seeing that on track this year. Next up is Denny Hamlin, and they finally put more purple on the car. I think his normal paint scheme from, 2019 to the last year, I think it looked good. I really do, but it needed more purple and orange. Last year, they did a purple and orange scheme in the Daytona 500, and it looked amazing. And they got rid of it, which was really disappointing. But this year, they added more purple and they added more orange. If you look at the front of the car, you kind of have a sunset look on the bottom. You got the hood, which is purple. You got the top of the car, which is purple. And then back near the C-post, you also see some orange sunset-looking colors on the bottom of the car. You can kind of see the purple and orange. Once they meet, it's kind of that sunset look. And then they use up the space pretty well. They got the 11. They used the FedEx logo really big. They put the sports clips back there. So, yeah, it's a really good scheme. 8.5 out of 10. Pretty solid scheme. Ryan Blaney Menards. Same story as Austin Cindric. I can't remember if I gave the Menards one a 6.5 or 6, but whatever I said for Menards in Cindric, so I think it was a 6.5. Next up is Chase Briscoe, the Mahindra car. And this is an amazing paint scheme. Stewart-Haas Racing, once again. Stop being so awesome. It gives me vibes of the 2011 Office Depot car that Tony Stewart drove a championship to. The red and the black on the back side of the car. They used up the space really well with the logo all the way near back to the fuel entry point up to the number. They used the black and kind of to use the logo, and then everything else is red, and it's just not a straight red. They have different shades of red. They got kind of a pattern almost. They use up the space well with the other sponsors like High Point, Haas, the Colorado State thing. But overall, great paint scheme. Stewart-Haas Racing. This gets a 8.8 out of 10. Really good looking car. Christopher Bell's Ream car. If you think it's the sponsors that have to do with making these cars, Ream single-handedly destroyed that theory because Kevin Harvick and Ream and Stewart-Haas Racing and Ream, they knocked that paint scheme out of the park. Then you go to Joe Gibbs Racing, and you look at their Ream car. Disappointment does not explain this enough. They copy and pasted last year's paint scheme. They moved the Ream logo right next to the number, and there's nothing else. It's literally just black and a red stripe on the rest of the car. Why do we need all that space if we're not going to use it? Why do we move the numbers? Boring paint scheme, lazy design. It's a 2 out of 10. Next up is the Wood Brothers Harrison Burton. It's the Wood Brothers paint scheme. They changed it up a little bit, I feel like. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's just me, but the Motorcraft logo on the door just looks really weird and really off. It looks like someone just slapped it there randomly. I don't know. It just looks off. Obviously, the Gold 21, that's a classic number. It's an iconic number, but this looks weird, I will admit. but I just don't know how to rate it because I don't want to. I don't want to hate on a iconic paint scheme, an iconic team, the number and all that stuff, but it just looks weird with the Motorcraft right there. So 5.7 out of 10. I don't know. It's just weird looking. We got 2 Joey Logano schemes of the same sponsor. We got one with the AAA insurance, which is for Texas. That's just standard AAA, and this one looks amazing. They used up the space great. They put the AAA logo on the door, and then they do the insurance on the back of the car, which looks great. They take up so much space. The Shell and Pennzoil logo takes up that space. And this is an old paint scheme. They've used this for a number of years. So this is a great example of, yeah, sure, old paint schemes can work on the new car if you move the logos around right. And they did that. It looks great on this one. The hood looks great. The side of the car looks great. That's a solid 8 out of 10. Then we go to the Auto Club one, and they just kind of ran out of talent there. The AAA logo for Southern California is only a circle, and they didn't feel the need to put the logo or insurance or anything on the above the tire. And it's empty and it's naked. It's just blue, and I don't like it. So that one gets like a 5 out of 10. So the Texas one gets an 8. The Auto Club gets a 5. Yeah. Now we go to Bubba Wallace in the Lidos car. I like the variety of colors, to be honest. They kind of clash well with the green, goes into the turquoise, into the kind of bluish, purplish, into the purplish, into the dark purple, into the kind of yellow purplish, into the yellow orange, into the orange red. So it flows really well. I like that. The logo, though, is too small. Too much open space on the door. If we're going to give you that much space on the door with moving the number, use it up, please. The base paint looks great. It's just the logo isn't big enough, and there's too much open space, so 7.5 out of 10. Next up, William Byron Exalted car. They copied and pasted last year, but the thing is that last year's paint scheme was a 10 out of 10. It looked great on the track. Originally, I was kind of skeptical, but then they put it on track and it looked great. They actually put last year's paint scheme exactly with the last year's door placement with the number. They put it on the next-gen car for a test, and it looked perfect. It was like a solid 24 out of 10. But then they moved the number up, and there's too much open space. The Exalted logo is a bit bigger on the side of the car. There's a big gap in between where the 24 is and the Exalta. It's an 8 out of 10. The base paint scheme looks amazing. The Chevy logo on the hood is stupid. Everything else, though, is okay. Now we go to Jacques Villeneuve. This car kind of just gives me an old sports car kind of vibe, you know, with the old 1960s numbers and stuff. And this paint scheme honestly reminds me of the McLaren Gulf Oil throwback livery from Monaco this year. The coloring, at least, but I like how they put the 27 on the little black box. As I said, it kind of reminds me of those old sports cars, the way that number is and the way it's placed. The orange and the gray look decent together, I would say. I don't know if this is a test paint scheme or if this is actually going to be their paint scheme, but I would like them to use more space on the back of the car. It's a 7 out of 10. It's not too bad, but it's not anything extraordinary. Then we got Eric Jones, his Focus Factor car, and I love the colors. I will admit, that shade of blue pops, that shade of green pops. You got the little bit of the petty blue in there, and it kind of pops. But I like how they use up the space, I will say that. But on the hood, maybe it's just me, but the logo looks almost too big. Like, it looks so bold and big. I don't know, but overall, the paint scheme looks great. The car looks great. It's a 8.5 out of 10. The Ally car. Once again, the Chevy logo on the hood is stupid by Hendrick. Everything else, amazing. We've seen a black Ally car. We've seen a white Ally car. And we've even seen a purple Ally car. But this one, they use all their colors. They use the white as the base. They got the purple, the pink, and they even got that kind of turquoise-ish looking color on there with some stripes to, you know, make some extra color pop. They use up the space. They put Ally on the door, and they do Ally saying their slogan, "Do It Right," on the back of the car. They got HendrickCars.com on the quarter panel. It's a solid looking scheme. It's an 8 out of 10. Then our last paint scheme, our last entry of the day, is the Daniel Suarez Tootsies scheme. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, if I'm being honest. The purple, the pink, the kind of light pink, the lavender, I guess. It looks... I kind of like it. I like how big the logo is and how they kind of fit it. But I can't fully read the logo. Like, you can't really fully read, is that a T or a J? It honestly might be a J, a Jootsies. I don't know, but it kind of gets cut off. The E and the S go onto the top of the car, which kind of makes it weird. But I like the flower on the back of the car. The 99 looks fine, and 7.5 out of 10. I don't know. These ratings I just make up in my head. I just kind of think of them whenever I see it. And I forgot to do this one because it wouldn't save on my phone for some reason. And yeah, the Martin Truex Jr. paint scheme. I really don't know about this one. It looks the same as last year. I like how they used up the space with the tracker boats, ATVs, and the Bass Pro Shops, but it's just too much. I don't know. It's just like, it looks weird to me. I don't know, 7 out of 10. But that's the last paint scheme for today. We'll look at more paint schemes later. Once we get closer to the season, more paint schemes get released. But I feel like I blew through those, but it's been 20 minutes. So hopefully you saw some good paint schemes. I really like the SHR schemes, the Harvick, Almirola, Briscoe schemes. Hendrick needs to get rid of the Chevy logo on the hood. Bell's Dream logo was so boring and lazy and bad. Gosh, why do we move the numbers if we're going to do that? But yeah, other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought the paint schemes, looking at that, was really fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel. We'll get to you some new content sometime this weekend, this week. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. And we're counting down the days to the Busch Clash, I guess.